Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, friends.
Live visuals of that CCEA brief by Union Minister Prakash Javadekar. A couple of important points coming out of that press briefing. There's been a raise in the MSP as far as copra or coconut price. MSP on that is concerned, almost 40% of that, and it augurs very well for those farmers in cultivation of copra and in production of copra. We're going to, in fact, take the story forward a little later in the day and talk about the implications of it as far as the farm sector in that particular zone is concerned, but also the other big point coming out of that CCA presser. There is going to be a press conference at around 4 o'clock today by Delhi Police. Two important points: the current law and order situation, the security apparatus that has been beefed up in national capital Delhi on that, and also the follow-up on the investigations, what we saw yesterday, the tractor rally taken out by the certain section of protesting farmers. We're going to keep an eye on that as well, but you're watching Midday Prime, and in the next 40-45 minutes or so, we'll keep an eye on these developments in the national capital. Security has been tightened after a section of farmers protesting went on a rampage yesterday. We're going to get a live report on that. Plus, the biggest news of the day on the Midday Prime is the IMF projections of 11.5%. That's a big news. Good numbers out there in terms of growth rate for India this year. We'll tell you the significance of it, the implications with the guest in our studio as well. But first up on Midday Prime, I'm Sakal Bhatt, and here are the headlines. International Monetary Fund forecasts 11.5% GDP growth for India for the year 2021 in its latest World Economic Outlook update. Reflects rebounds of Indian economy. IMF also forecasts global growth for 2021 at 5.5%, 0.3 percentage points higher than its October estimates. Security tightened in national capital after the protest of farmers on Republic Day. Breaks barricades, attacks police. Police act with restraint. Over 300 police personnel injured. 22 FIRs registered. High-level review meeting underway at Home Minister's residence. In other big news of the day, Sri Lanka to receive 5 lakh doses of Made in India Covishield vaccine to become the 8th nation to receive India's gift of COVID-19 vaccines under Vaccine Maitri. Over 10 crore COVID-19 cases reported worldwide, with over 21,67,000 fatalities. UK becomes first European nation to cross 1 lakh deaths. Prime Minister Boris Johnson takes responsibility of lives lost due to COVID-19. And Manchester City moved to the top of the English Premier League for the first time this season. Gundogan slams brace as City thrash West Bromwich Albion 5-0 to secure an 11th straight win in all competitions. And let's begin Midday Prime with the big news. So security has been tightened and briefed up in the national capital after a section of farmers protesting went on a rampage in Delhi on Republic Day, that is yesterday. While the nation was celebrating the 72nd Republic Day, many parts of the capital city of Delhi and NCR were witnessing scenes of unruly crowds, unruly mobs going berserk and outrightly vandalizing national symbols, national property, and most importantly, disrespecting the law of the land. In fact, these mob disguised as farmers infiltrated the tractor rally and caused utter mayhem at the Red Fort. These are the visuals of what happened yesterday. And the agitators, we know, defied the conditions and started their march before the scheduled time, and they chose the path of violence. The police displayed utmost restraint during the tractor rally in terms of containing the law and order situation, and in view of the situation, Delhi police took necessary steps with absolute restraint to maintain law and order. And following the violence that transpired yesterday during the farmers' protest in the national capital, Delhi police so far has registered 22 FIRs in connection with the violation of lawful directions, rioting, damage to public property, and also assault on a public servant. Identification, meanwhile, of those involved in this violence yesterday is also being done with the help of CCTV camera footage and media reports. The city police is keeping a very close watch on the situation, a close visual out there. There are around 22 FIRs that have been registered against the offenders reportedly that were involved allegedly yesterday in rioting. My colleague Vishal Baristo in fact joins us for more updates. He's tracking this story live. 22 FIRs have been lodged. In fact, they breached barricades and in fact also clashed with police, breaching most of the rules that were already pre-decided. Vishal, first things first, what are you sensing? How is the situation on ground, especially these vulnerable and hypersensitive zones are concerned today? Early in the morning, there were some reports that, civilians are facing some bit of a inconvenience in terms of commuting, traffic snarls, etc. Has all that been brought under control?
Well, absolutely. Very good afternoon to you, Sakal. The commuters were facing a lot of problems yesterday because of the mayhem that was caused by the vandalizing so-called farmers. But today, the situation is far better because yesterday I was reporting live from ITO and I could see how they were vandalizing the public property, attacking police with lathis and rods and pelting stones. But today the situation is far better. Only the Lal Killa metro station is closed down because of security reasons. But apart from that, the metro is functioning normally. As you can see, I would ask the cameraman to show you the visuals of the roads. It is all normal here. Situation has normalized. There you see the traffic on the roads, vehicles plying normally. And it's a bright sunny day. Much better from the scenes from yesterday, and commuters are not facing any problems. But police are taking care of the situation. They are keeping a close vigil. In fact, some time back, a meeting was called in at the Home Minister by the Home Minister, in which the Delhi Police Commissioner, along with the IB officials, senior officials, were also called in. So the government and the authorities, along with the police, are keeping a close eye. You cannot let it happen again and again. The commuters are not facing any problems today, but yesterday it was a disaster.
What about the metro station lines? Any update on that? The vehicular movement, as you're reporting, has more or less been restored. If you could also pan the camera, you're reporting live from the very heart of Delhi. Tell us more also if you're picking up something on the metro lines. All lines are functioning normally, smoothly.
Well, all lines are functioning normally, smoothly, Sakal. Only the metro station at Lal Killa has been closed because of security reasons. But apart from that, all metro lines are functioning normally, whether green, yellow, red, violet, and they are all functioning properly, normally. And it's a big relief for the commuters because yesterday people had to take a long walk to their home because of the violence that was caused by the so-called agitating farmers. But today everything is normal. But as I told you, that police is keeping a close eye, and yes, the security has been tightened, has been beefed up because the farmers, they have been saying that the agitation would continue despite of what had happened, though they say that it is very unfortunate, but you cannot simply wash
Vishal,
your hands and move away. You
have
to take the responsibility.
Security apparatus in Delhi and NCR, we understand. In fact, some areas virtually turning into fortress, but just to assure that there is calm, the calm prevails. Vishal, very quickly, what are you picking up from the sources in Delhi Police? Though there's going to be a press conference at around 4, but at least 22 FIRs have been lodged, and now the CCTV cameras will actually help them in zeroing on as far as those perpetrators were concerned yesterday.
Well, absolutely. More than a score FIRs have been lodged against the perpetrators of violence and those involved in violence, because the media was reporting live. I was there, DD News was there at Lal Killa, and ITO, I was reporting live from ITO. And the police would be looking into the footages as now we know that 22 FIRs have been lodged, and police will take action against them. And they would be also looking into more footages, the camera footages, the CCTV footages. But security has definitely been beefed up, because the farmers, they have announced that they would continue with the agitation. And remember, the budget session is going to start in Parliament soon. And so the authorities and the police are keeping a close eye. Security has definitely been beefed up, but the commuters are not facing any problem. Metros are working normally, and the roads are also open for the commuters. Yes, there are somewhere there are barricades, and you have to go through checking, but that is all for our safety.
Maximum restraint by Delhi police yesterday. Today, Delhi police also, coming up to the expectations of Delhiites, maintaining the law and order on ground and assuring that there's no inconvenience caused to the people by and large, and especially commuters. Thank you very much, Vishal. Keep an eye on the developments. We'll get back to you later in the day. Well, let's move on, and more updates coming in. Two lawyers have moved Supreme Court seeking to constitute a judicial inquiry commission for the inquiry into the violent incidents which took place in Delhi yesterday on 26th of January during the protesting farmers' tractor march. Now, the petition has been filed by Advocate Vishal Tiwari, who also seeks a direction to register the first information report, or FIR, under relevant sections of IPC or Indian Penal Code and other penal provisions against the persons or organizations that are found responsible for the violence and alleged dishonor of the national flag. Second petitions has been filed in the top court by Advocate Vinny Jindal, urging it to take up so motor cognizance of the violent incidents that took place during the farmers' tractor rally on Republic Day yesterday. Meanwhile, Indian Railways has offered a full refund of tickets to passengers who missed their trains from Delhi due to farmers' rally. Those who could not board the trains will have to apply for full refund of trains departing from all the stations of Delhi up to 9 p.m. on Tuesday through ticket deposit receipt and e-ticket deposit receipts for e-tickets. Railways has issued instructions to all the stations in Delhi in this regard. And now let's move on and get you the big news of the day on Midday Prime. The International Monetary Fund has projected 11.5% growth rate for India this year. The IMF's growth projections for India in its latest World Economic Outlook update was released on Tuesday. It's reflecting a very strong rebound in the economy, which is estimated to have contracted by 8% in 2020 due to pandemic. And its latest update, the IMF projected an 11.5% growth rate for India in 2021. And why this is great news for India? Because this makes India the only major economy of the world to register a double-digit growth in 2021. And if these IMF projections or numbers are anything to go by, then India would be the only major economy of the world to register a double-digit growth in 2021 amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. And Abhishek is here in our Delhi studio to tell us about the implications. And Abhishek, most importantly, India managed to stay much ahead of curve in terms of dealing with the COVID situation. And not only that, now also in terms of numbers, growth trajectory, India again much ahead of the curve when it comes to other developing countries. Over to you for more, please.
Of course, Sakal, and we have seen that this whole pandemic thing, how government has dealt with the situation with so many steps have been taken from the government side. To talk more on this, we have our guest also. Sir, if you could, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
So, sir, talking about this fundamentals of an economy, of course, those data and fundamentals of an economy are of paramount importance. But talking a lot more also depends on the sentiments. With this IMF news coming in, how do you see those sentiments boosting, or what impact it can actually have on those business sentiments from across the globe?
So one thing is very clear. India is going to be the fastest growing economy of the world in 2021 and even 2022. This is something which the IMF in their projections have shown it. And from their previous projection, this is a jump by 2.7% in single year. Now they have themselves said it, and I and some of the economists in our country have been saying it, that in our country there is resilience because the demographics is good and the government policies have been very supportive. So immediately after the lockdown, when we were opening it, the way the economy bounced in the second quarter, that means April, May, June, the economy was closed, recorded nearly 24% decline. But in July, August, September, it bounced back. And I have always said October, November, December, these are the months which are the busiest season in the country, has festivals, has marriages, and already there's buoyancy of lots of sentiments. Similarly, January, February, March, another busy season, another time when the country is booming and marriages season, everything is happening, you will find further growth take place here. The IMF has acknowledged that fact and giving us a growth of 11.7% for 11.5% for 2021 and 6.8% for 22. It's obvious that the country is already acknowledged
Sure,
to the fastest growing economy.
Okay.
This has been aided by the schemes that the government announced.
Yes.
At different points of time. The way the government came and kept telling us that if there is something required in the banking sector, MSMEs, Mudra
Absolutely.
loans, industry, financial sector, NBFCs, everything was being taken care and provided for. And this is the reflection of the policies of the government supporting the economy during the difficult times.
Okay. Also, sir, India inviting foreign investors has been one of the key concern of the government, and there has been a lot of steps and easing doing business. Government has done a lot in the past. This year, India has witnessed almost 13% rise in the foreign direct investment. But then most of these direct investment has been in the sector IT related infrastructure or IT related business sector. So to divert those foreign investment to other sectors, especially in manufacturing and maybe agriculture also, what are the steps that you see that government can focus upon on?
The first and foremost, one has to realize one fact, that the whole world is healing. So whole world recovery is taking place. But given this scenario, the regulator that the Reserve Bank of India is, and the strength of the commercial banks and the financial system in our country, it is obvious that we are the most attractive destination for foreign direct
Bright
investment.
spot, yeah.
So it's a bright spot, and I am visualizing that this will continue. You are right. At this point of time in the country, e-commerce and pharmaceutical has boomed up. But manufacturing, as the lockdown is opening up and life will become normal after the vaccine has done its job, and the vaccination has already started in the country, and by end of July it's expected we would have gone a long way. My feeling is that the manufacturing, MSMEs, large industry, everything will come back. And then obviously we will find the FDI getting directed into industry also. My own feeling is that tourism will also revive very soon in the country, and once tourism revives, the economy starts booming back, activity starts happening regularly, and the months of May, June, July, when the children's vacation and the weather is very good in our country, again tourism can boom up. Again, the quarter that happens little monsoon and the weather is again improving, something will happen again in terms of construction during this time. So therefore, my own feeling and understanding of this trend is that the FDI will continue. The diversification of FDI into sectors of manufacturing will resume, in construction, real estate will resume. And I think by the end of this year, life will be normal again.
Okay. Sir, we have seen that also in the past with the kind of crisis that the world saw. Government came up with so many new schemes, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India, Skill Development and Digital India, and many more actually worked in that direction where economy could be opened up more and more progressive way of economy we have seen. To be at the corner when we are going to see the new year's budget, what are the steps, what are the direction that you see that government should focus about? We have seen the better results of these Atmanirbhar Bharat and other schemes. What are the areas that government needs to focus more this time if we talk about continuing this momentum of growth?
Very good question. And the timing of this results which the IMF has given us just 5 days before the budget is on the anvil and going to be presented. Look, there are 2-3 things which I would like to mention here. The vaccine that we have produced and under the vaccine diplomacy which we are sharing with the rest of the world in our neighboring countries is something extremely good. It should be encouraged. I think the government should give it a boost, and the country's position, strategic position in pharmaceuticals and medicines now should be consolidated. So the government should really help in consolidating the sector so that our position which we have gained during the COVID time is further strengthened in the days to come. Second, we have taken care of the physical health of the labor by the vaccine. But now, empirical evidence shows that even after the 1918 pandemic, 18 months to 24 months later, there were still side effects that were taking place. What I mean is the mental health of our workers need to be assured, and mental health of the citizens need to be assured. I think the government will have to do something in this front also. The third, in the phase of transition and recovery, many foreign companies may like to move out of China, and therefore India should now think in terms of a red carpet in the budget, saying that if foreign companies want to operate in India, we have a cafeteria approach. We have virgin lands in Northeast, we have industrial state of Gujarat and Maharashtra, we have port cities in South India, we have mining rich cities, states in Jharkhand and Bihar, and the government should consider all India plan. If foreign companies want to come in here, they should do at least replicate what China does. China gives very cheap loans, gives almost free land, gives tax holidays for 7 years, also builds infrastructure and arranges staff for the new industry. I think we need to do that. We need to also liberalize, ease the licensing policy so that the foreign companies can come in. I think in this, the government needs to rope in the trade associations. Some of them are more than 100 years old. The government also needs to work through its embassies and tell the rest of the world that India is a great alternative destination to China. So that is the second thing they will have to do. The third, we will have to continue to support MSMEs, because 6 crore MSMEs employ 12 crore people. That is very important. And the last which I want to mention, I think is very important, is the sector for non-banking finance companies. While the commercial banks are doing well, the last mile connectivity with the common man is provided by the non-banking finance companies. We need to strengthen them, standardize their products, build confidence in them, and ensure their credibility so that they can lend extensively in this revival stage. In the rest of the world, shadow banks account for 50% of the financial assets. In our country, they still account only for 13%. There's lots of scope in the non-banking finance companies to be strengthened. Sure. I think these will be the forefront things that we need to do. If we have a minute, I want to mention one thing.
Yes, sir.
We need not worry this time on gross fiscal deficit and target of 3% and 60% of deficit to GDP ratios respectively. Rest of the world is not worrying. This is a recovery phase. I'm not suggesting profligacy, but what I'm suggesting is the government could go and extend expenditure so that the economy is revived.
Okay. Sure, sir, thank you very much for talking to us. And we hope that with this all mental health sector that our expert was talking about with this moratorium thing, that is going to de-stress for a couple of more months. And to talk more about on the other issues, we are going back to Sakal.
Well, that was Dr. Charan Singh, senior economist, talking exclusively to us and my colleague Abhishek on this edition of Business Prime and Midday Prime. Thank you very much, Abhishek, for that quick perspective. And now let's move on and talk about the other stories that we are tracking for you on National Prime. Well, the Embassy of India, Jakarta, celebrated the 72nd Republic Day with much enthusiasm and patriotic fervour. Celebrations were held at the India House, commencing with the unfurling of the national flag by the Ambassador of India to Indonesia. His Excellency Mr. Manoj K. Bharati, followed by singing of national anthem. Thereafter, the ambassador read out the Honorable President's address to the nation. A brief cultural program was also organized, which included rendition of patriotic songs by talents from the Indian diaspora and the embassy families. And in a special video message, the ambassador greeted the Indian citizens and people of Indian origin living in Indonesia and acknowledged their contribution to the growth of India. In his speech, ambassador also mentioned about Sri Wayan Dibya from Indonesia Institute of Arts, Bali, who was awarded Padma Shri 2021 in the field of art and culture. On this occasion, the Jakarta Post carried out a special supplement titled Celebration of India's 72nd Republic Day, focusing the long-standing friendship between Indonesia and India and scope of cooperation in the field of commerce, education, defence and maritime connectivity. Now, the ceremony was attended by the officials of the embassy and the ASEAN officials and their family members while observing the social distancing norms.
On behalf of the Government of India and on behalf of the Embassy of India in Jakarta, I extend warm greetings to all Indian citizens living in Indonesia and people of Indian origin in Indonesia on the occasion of the 72nd Republic Day of India. Indonesia and India are very close friends, and the Indian nationals living here and people of Indian origin play an important role in extending this cooperation.
Armed Forces contingent of Bangladesh paid tributes to martyrs at the National War Memorial this morning. And for the first time, Bangladesh Armed Forces contingent took part in the Republic Day parade at the majestic Rajpath. Moving on, Sri Lanka will be getting 5 lakh doses of made-in-India Covishield vaccine today. Sri Lanka, in fact, becomes the 8th nation to receive India's gift of COVID-19 vaccines. Sri Lanka on Friday has approved emergency use of Covishield vaccine being manufactured by the Serum Institute of India. Starting last Wednesday, India has gifted vaccines to 7 countries: Bhutan, Maldives, Nepal, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar and Seychelles, as well as Mauritius. The first recipients of the vaccines in Sri Lanka will be 2.5 lakh personnel in the health service sector and members of the armed forces and police who deployed in the quarantine and intermediate COVID-19 treatment facilities. As we stay with these visuals, my colleague Amritpal is joining us live on Midday Prime. Yes, he's there, and tell us more about overall, Amrit, the overall optics of this exercise, vaccine maitri, and most importantly, India being very consistent in terms of keeping up this goodwill gesture and vaccine diplomacy.
Yes, Sakal, it is actually more than a goodwill gesture. It is a philosophy that Prime Minister spoke about at his UNGA address, Vasudev Kutumbakam, that India sees the whole world as one family. So he had committed at the in his UNGA speech that India will share that what it has. So under that, India has started giving these vaccines under grant assistance, which basically means free vaccines to the neighborhood countries first under the neighborhood policy. You mentioned Bhutan, Nepal, Maldives, Mauritius, Afghanistan. Now Sri Lanka becomes the 8th country to get a dosage or to get vaccines, 5 lakh vaccines from India. And Sri Lanka has thanked India for that. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa's cabinet yesterday in a cabinet note thanked India for these vaccines. And today an advisor of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that Sri Lanka plans to buy 2 to 3 million doses of vaccines from the Serum Institute of India in Pune. So they want to expand this partnership with India. As you know, India has become the pharmacy of the world. It has a huge capacity as a drug manufacturer. So India is undertaking this project. India plans to reach out to some 90 countries who've expressed interest in buying vaccines from India.
Okay.
India's, as you already, would know, India is already shipping commercial supplies to South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Morocco, and India wishes to expand this basket if the world so desires. So in that sense, India has risen up the challenge of not just vaccinating its huge population, but also providing vaccines to the rest of the world.
Yes,
Sakal?
Amrit. Yes, Amrit. Thank you very much for that quick update and joining us live on Midday. Thanks. Moving on, Union Tourism and Culture Minister Prahlad Patel visited Red Fort to take stock of the situation and assess the damage caused there a day after protesting farmers stormed the iconic monument. He met officers from the Archaeological Survey of India. They briefed him on the extent of the damage being inflicted on the monuments. Ministry of Textiles has signed an MOU with Japan's Nichiken Quality Evaluation Center. The MOU has been signed for improving quality and testing of Indian textiles and clothing for the Japanese market. Minister of Textiles Smriti Irani was also present during the signing of the MOU. While delivering keynote address, the minister urged Indian textile producers to take advantage of this understanding.
This MOU will pave way in creating awareness on various quality parameters being sought by the importers based in Japan and extending hand-holding support to Indian exporters to adopt and upgrade their systems and technology so as to enhance the quality of their products and satisfy the stipulation as required by the Japanese importers. Through this assembly, I urge the Indian textiles industry to take advantage of this partnership and look for improving exports to Japan, which is the third largest importer of textiles and apparel in the world. The combined effort between these two agencies will certainly spur growth in export of Indian textiles and apparels to the Japanese market.
Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan chaired the 148th session of the World Health Organization Executive Board. While addressing the session, Harshvardhan said that 2020 was the year of discovery for COVID vaccines and 2021 will be the year we face the challenge of getting it to people across the world who most need it. And speaking on the unanimous support for Immunization Agenda 2030, Health Minister said that vaccine coverage must continue to improve, particularly to reach vulnerable sections and reduce inequities. Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the Chief Medical Advisor to the President of United States of America, addressed also on behalf of the Biden-Harris administration, announcing that USA will remain a member of the WHO and fulfill its financial obligations with continued technical collaborations at all levels, including through its collaborating centers.
At the WHO, we have to ensure that the low and middle income countries have access to all safe and effective COVID-19 tests, treatments and vaccines. I have always said that WHO needs to be a trailblazer, working with passion and commitment, wanting to make a difference in the world and being satisfied with nothing less. WHO's commitment to providing transformative experiences for our member nations has been exemplary. Let us pledge to work tirelessly to champion the cause of WHO, to steward its mission and to strengthen and secure its future. On behalf of India and as chair of the WHO Executive Board, I welcome the announcement that the new administration of President Joe Biden will halt the process of withdrawing the US from the WHO. We note with pleasure that the USA will continue working with all member states with renewed commitment to multilateral cooperation and action in the global fight against the pandemic. As our DG had said, WHO is a family of nations and it requires the solidarity of nations to prevail.
In other news, Chief Minister and AIADMK co-coordinator Idapati K. Palaniswamy today inaugurated a Phoenix-themed memorial for the late Tamil Nadu Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha at the Marina Beach in Chennai. Deputy Chief Minister and Party Coordinator O. Pannirselvam and Assembly Speaker P. Dhanapal were also present during the event. Now, the three later paid floral tributes at the spot where she was laid to rest on 5th December 2016 after her death. The inauguration comes 3 years after Palaniswamy, along with his deputy O. Pannirselvam, laid its foundation stone adjacent to the memorial of the party founder and late Chief Minister M.G. Ramachandran on Kamarajar Salai. Ministers, MPs, MLAs and senior party leaders were also present during the event. The state government had earmarked ₹50 crore for construction of this memorial for Jayalalitha, fondly addressed as Amma by her party cadres. Huge crowd of supporters thronged the beach to witness the inauguration of the memorial. Moving on to more news and updates. In a tragic incident, 8 persons were killed and 4 injured when a speeding trailer truck hit their car from behind near a bridge on Banas River in Rajasthan's Tonk district early on Wednesday. The victims, belonging to Rajgarh in Madhya Pradesh, were returning from Khatu Syam temple. The deceased, who were from a single family, included 2 women and 2 children. Those injured were referred to Jaipur for treatment. The trailer driver fled from the spot and a hunt to nab him is on. And now on Midday Prime, it's a quick look at what's making news across the globe. So, US President Joe Biden held his first telephonic conversation after assuming presidency with Russia's President Vladimir Putin. President Joe Biden expressed concerns over the detention of Russia's opposition leader Alexei Navalny, involved of Russia in cyber hacks and Russia's offer of bounties to Taliban-linked militants to kill coalition forces in Afghanistan. White House is informed that Biden also affirmed United States' stern support for Ukraine's sovereignty. And other issues raised during the conversation pertains to SolarWinds hack and Russia's interference in US elections reportedly in 2020. More than this, the two leaders agreed that their teams would work urgently to complete the extension of the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. So Amrit joins me for more on this. So from Amrit, a reduction in new arms treaty to Russia's alleged involvement in the elections, etc. Putting in perspective, Biden having a telecon and he being the first of the world leaders to have this conversation, US-Russia, what is the significance and the implications of it?
Well, Sakal, this was the first call that the new American president made to his Russian counterpart. This came on the request of Russia. There was a departure from the past, the relationship that former President Donald Trump shared with Vladimir Putin, the kind of warm rhetoric that we saw, though America used to take a tough line. But this meeting was, as Kremlin has put it, frank and businesslike, which is basically diplomatics for a tense negotiation. I think President Biden was very clear with President Putin that he wants to have, he considers Russia a difficult adversary which needs to be managed, but he wants to keep the room open for diplomacy. So in his first call, he raised these issues of the SolarWinds hacks, the Taliban, the Russia, reports of Russia apparently offering bounties on American soldiers in Afghanistan, to Taliban, hinting that America will do all it can to protect its interests, which basically means that even if it comes down to imposing sanctions, America will not shy away from that. On a positive note, he did, of course, bring up the issue of Alexei Navalny, the opposition leader, the protests that have taken place in Russia, his arrest. So the alleged attempt of nerve poisoning him. So President Biden in his first call did bring all this up. On a positive note, he talked about extending the New START policy, which is the last arms control treaty between Russia and America. It expires next month. So both sides agreed to tell their administrations to quickly work out the procedures and protocols for extending this treaty. So that was a positive outcome from these talks. Otherwise, I think President Biden gave a very stern message to Vladimir Putin that Russia needs to scale down its aggression when it comes to US policies or even in Central Europe. And the part of Europe which is neighboring Russia. So the message from President Biden was very, very clear to Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, so basically trying to make the right kind of noises and trying to set the tone for the future things to come vis-a-vis US-Russia. Thank you very much, Amrit, for putting this in perspective and joining us live. Thanks. Staying with US politics, US President Joe Biden has also signed executive orders on Tuesday to scale back the US government's use of private prisons and bolster anti-discrimination enforcement in the housing market as well as actions to curb bias across all US government agencies. The measures are part of a package of steps being taken by the new Democratic president to roll back policies of the Republican predecessor Donald Trump and also promote racial justice reforms that he pledged to address during his election campaign. Now, under the new policies, the Justice Department will not renew contracts with private prison operators. Advocates have said privately operated prisons have contributed to an increase in incarceration rates and treated inmates poorly. Also, the Biden administration's newly announced fair housing policy requires the Department of Housing and Urban Development to study and counteract the racially discriminatory impacts of previous policies of Donald Trump. The World Health Organization issued fresh clinical advice on Tuesday, that is yesterday, January 26th, for treating COVID-19 patients, including those displaying persistent symptoms after recovery, and also said it is advising, it advised using low-dose anticoagulants to prevent blood clotting. While holding a briefing in Geneva, WHO spokeswoman Margaret Harris added that COVID-19 patients at home should have the use of pulse oximetry, that's measuring the oxygen levels that we call oximeter, so that they can identify whether somewhat at home it is deteriorating and would be better off having hospital care. She's also advised clinics to put patients into the awake prone position on their front, shown to improve the oxygen flow. The WHO further recommends the use of low-dose anticoagulants to prevent blood clots forming in blood vessels. So WHO has now released new advisories, particularly the use of oximeter, fresh clinical advice that was released yesterday, that is 26th of January, for COVID-19 patients, which includes, especially for those who are displaying persistent or consistent symptoms. So the use of low-dose anticoagulants to prevent blood clots has been, in fact, part of that advisory issued by WHO. And now it's time for the stories coming in from the world of sports. And for Sports Prime, Narayan joins me. Narayan, good afternoon, over to you. So now for cricket lovers, all eyes are set on what happens in Chennai Test and the teams.
Good afternoon, Sakal. We start with the India versus England series. Players of India and England cricket team arrived in Chennai for the 4-match series, with the first 2 tests to be played here. Both India and England cricketers will have to undergo a 6-day quarantine period as well as COVID-19 testing. Team's training is scheduled to commence from February 2. The England team is high on confidence, having beaten Sri Lanka 2-0 In the island nation, India on the other hand are coming into the series on the back of a victorious tour of Australia where they defeated host Australia 2-1. The series is set to begin on February 5 with the first test match taking place at the MH Chidambaram Stadium. The second match will be held at the same venue from February 13. Uttarakhand's athlete Reshma Patel marked her 10,000 meter race debut with a national under-20 record en route to winning a gold medal to showcase her talent. The 16-year-old Patel clocked 48 minutes 25.90 seconds in the event on the second day of the National Federation Cup Junior Under-20 Athletic Championship at the TT Nagar Stadium in Bhopal. Moving to football, Chelsea have appointed former Paris Saint-Germain boss Thomas Tuchel as their new manager on an 18-month contract with an option to extend it. He won 2 league titles, the French Cup and the French League Cup at the PSG. Chelsea sacked Frank Lampard on Monday after 18 months in charge following a run of 1 win in 5 league matches. The German becomes the 11th full-time manager appointed by Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich since the billionaire bought the club in 2003. He will be in the dugout at the Stamford Bridge for Wednesday's Premier League meeting with Wolverhampton. Meanwhile, Man City moved to the top of the Premier League for the first time this season after thrashing West Brom Albion 5-0 on Tuesday. The informed Ike Gundogan scored twice, while Joao Cancelo, Riyad Mahrez, Raheem Sterling also netted for City in an inspired attacking display at the Hot Rods. City climbed a point over Manchester United, which can reclaim the first place by beating Sheffield United on Wednesday after an 11th straight victory in all competitions and a 7th in a row in the league. It is City's longest winning run for more than 3 years, and it has sent an ominous message to the team titles rivals, even with Kevin De Bruyne's absence through injury. In contrast, West Brom has now lost its last 5 top-flight home games, its worst run at the Hawthorns in the Premier League in 17 years, while conceding 22 goals in the process. West Brom remains second from bottom and 6 points away from safety zone. In another match, Arsenal came from behind for the first time in a Premier League game with the season to beat Southampton and move within 5 points of the top 4. Alexander Lacazette had a glorious opportunity to break deadlock inside 2 minutes, but his shot was saved. Southampton looked on course to see off the visitor once more as Stuart Armstrong fired them ahead with a fine third-minute volley. Arsenal equalized minutes later through a Nicolas Pepe, and they went ahead through Bukayo Saka before the break. Saka scored Arsenal's third goal in the 72nd minute and sealed the 3 points for Gunners. The win moves Mikel Arteta's side over Southampton and up to 8th in the table with just 5 points behind London rival West Ham, who occupy 4th place after a win at Crystal Palace earlier. In Milan derby, Zlatan Ibrahimovic clashed with former Manchester United teammate Romelu Lukaku during a heated Milan derby in the Italian Cup quarter-finals on Tuesday. AC Milan's Ibrahimovic and Inter's Lukaku were both booked following a spat at the end of the first half, which continued in the tunnel during the interval. Ibrahimovic, who had given Milan a first-half lead, was sent off after picking up a second yellow card after the break, while Lukaku levelled with a penalty before Christian Eriksen struck a stoppage-time winner for the Inter to send them through with a 2-1 win in the Milan derby. That's all from the sporting arena. For rest, back to you, Sagal.
Thank you, Narayan. Thank you. And with that, it's time to wrap up this edition of Midday Prime. We'll be back with more news and updates. Stay tuned to DD News and DD India throughout the day. Thanks for tuning in. Namaskar.